else.
Okay, attempt 2. We're going to do something a little bit different today. Today we're going to talk about some streamer fishing. I got a friend of mine here, Brian.
Walensik,
yeah. I've known this guy so long I still can't pronounce his name.
It's Polish, it's not easy.
That explains a lot. So Brian's has spent about 4 years just focused, with a great obsession on streamer fishing, and has found a lot of flies, modified some flies, and really has worked on a lot of techniques. So we're going to showcase his techniques today, his fly patterns today, and just turn Brian loose in front of the camera and show what he does for streamer fishing. This is not the technique that you catch a lot of fish at. What he's doing, he's hunting for the top 5% of a population in a river. So you do a lot of casting, a lot of covering water before you have an encounter. And usually when you have an encounter, it's
adrenaline.
Yeah, it's an adrenaline. It's also probably one of the best fish in that piece of that watershed.
Yeah, and the funny thing too about streamer fishing is you don't always hook the fish. So you're out there for hours, you get one shot at a great fish, and then you feel it or you see the explosion on the water,
the reaction of them.
Yeah, and then you don't even hook it, or
well, you can see a lot. Yeah, you can feel, but you see a lot of predatory behavior out of those fish.
Right. Yeah, which is amazing.
We're going to kind of go through this stuff, follow along. I hope you found it useful. Hope you enjoy it. A big part of Brian's whole streamer program is obviously the flies, but also his presentation. Watch his rod tip work. Obviously we're fishing in a tight spot, but you notice he's constantly manipulating that fly through the entire presentation. Yes, he's working with the current, and yes, he's swinging in it, but he's also manipulating that fly to dance, act like it's being pursued by a predator, make it look like it's injured. Anything he can to trigger a predatory response. Also, the size of the flies that he fishes, the fact that he's looking for that top 5% of the population, those really big fish, those big fish that have gone totally predator, he's going to have to cover some water to find that individual, then find an individual on top of that that's willing to chase. So it's a water mileage coverage game. So in this case here, he's going to be just eating up a lot of river. Now you're using a loop knot, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
What a reason for the loop knot?
It just gives it that additional freedom to move where that fly wants to go. It allows it to have that chuck and jive, that wiggle.
That wiggle that just kind of triggers that go get it, eat it response.
That's
you're
right.
Looking for.
And you can get it without the loop, but I just find with the loop you get a little more action. And any advantage that we can have with these finicky fish, the better.
All right, show us the fly.
Oh, it was a big trout that just came up down there.
Awesome. Rotated just a little bit.
So yeah, this is a 7 weight. It's a GLX Loomis. Any 7 weight would do. This one happens to be probably 30 years old, at least 20 plus years old. And the reason why I use a 7 weight or equivalent is because I'm throwing, big meaty flies. So this fly here happens to be something called a flash monkey. It's designed by a guy by the name of Russ Madden, who lives up in Michigan, and it's a single hook, but what you can see is that it's beefy just by design. It's got a fat profile, it pushes a lot of water, makes a lot of commotion in the water itself. And what I've paired it with, in order to be able to cast this big beefy fly, is a line that's called OPST. And the OPST line is basically a Skagit line. So it's got a Skagit head, you can see it's really fat here, and then it tapers down, and in the reel you can see the orange part, which is like a running line. It's very fine. And what it allows you to do...
Yeah, that's an integrated line. That's not one that's looped together. That's a one-piece line.
Yeah, it's a one-piece line. So it's called a Commando Smooth. And paired with this rod, you can pretty much effortlessly throw these big flies and not worry about a back cast. Because a lot of the fishing that I do, I'm not in a boat, I'm not casting from a boat, I'm really on the shore. I have a backdrop of trees and bushes, and I just don't have that opportunity to get a big back cast. So these Skagit heads really allow me to get a cast, and I can get it out there 30-40 feet to get the fly moving. And there's also some fun things that you can do with this this fat tip, with this Skagit tip, and with your leader and with your sink tip. So there's a sink tip that's attached, and you can have anything from floating to a sink tip that'll go like 4 inches per second, right? It'll just cannonball down. But you can manipulate the line in different ways in order to create different actions with the flies.
Yeah, that's been part of Brian's whole technique, is actually using that fly line to put the action into the fly.
Right, so you can actually pendulum your rod back and forth, if you can imagine that. In your fly line, this heavy, thick piece of the Skagit head is outside, and you can actually sway it back and forth with your rod tip. And what will happen is that your fly will follow the path of the fly line. And you can actually create like a Zara spook action, for those of you that are familiar with, bass lures, where it just zigs and zags back and forth. And I've never seen brown trout act the way that they do in and around like this flash monkey and or the other streamers, where it's zigging across the surface and maybe it's on the zag, but those brown trout just come up and they freaking annihilate the fly. I mean, they devastate it. They'll come out of the water. And I'm not talking an 8-inch fish. I'm talking, a 17, 20-inch fish that's coming clear out of the water just trying to kill these things. So that's my setup. The reel, I think, is kind of immaterial in this whole thing. All it's doing is holding line.
Yeah, how old is that reel?
It's 25 years old.
So it's not like you need the latest and the greatest in a rod and a reel.
Yeah, no. It's
Use
the
what
line.
you have.
Yeah.
It's the line.
It's the line and the flies. So that's it.
We're going to take a look at Brian's fly box, take a look at a few of his streamers.
Yeah, and let me just say, I got these weird quirks, and one of them is I like to study specific styles of fly fishing for years. So the last one, which was now 4 years ago, was wet flies, which I did straight for 3 years. And now for the past 4 years, it's been only streamers. So up in my truck now, I have, I don't know how many,
Oh God.
1,000 maybe,
Yeah.
different flies. So I've tied them all. I've fished them all, and what I've learned is that, you know, a lot of it has to do with the presentation, but there are different styles of flies. And what I've come to realize, you know, this is kind of my motto. I keep it on my fly box just to remind me at all times, you know, it's not always the fly, right? It's the presentation. So it's not the fly, you suck. I keep that on there just to remind me, you know, it's not always the fly, and not to always complain about it. But there are different styles of flies, and one of them, you know, you can see my box here, but the one that I wanted to show you guys, this is a laser legal. It's a very simple fly designed by Kelly Gallup. It's got a tungsten head, and then you basically have laser dubbing that's on it, on the back and on the belly. And it's a jig style fly. So you can fish this with a floating line, a long leader, and basically what happens, you know, once it's in the water is that it jigs up and down. So the manipulation is caused by your line and your long leader just letting it basically move up and down in the water column. This other one here, this is an articulated fly. Now this one happens to have 7 different articulations in it, and the articulations basically start here. It's called a Game Changer. It's the Game Changer platform. The fly itself is made with craft fur, and it's blended, so you have olives and whites in it. But this is more of a jerk style fly, and what I mean by that is you can fish it on a floating line, but what'll happen is it'll be within the first 6 inches of the water column. You won't actually be able to get where the fish are holding. So typically either you have to put a split shot up in front of it, or you have to use sinking lines. So depending on the flows, depending on the current, depending on how deep the fish are, you put a different tip on to get it down. And basically what happens, the Game Changers themselves, you can see they're wiggly as heck. You know, the wind is blowing here, the body of the fly just moves. 7 articulations, and it's a short, quick kind of a jerk style fly. So you have this head which creates the water commotion, and then the whole back of the fly just moves, and it looks like a minnow. So first we had the jigging style. Now we've got like this jerking style, and the third kind, which I showed you a couple of minutes ago, but it's the flash monkey. And the flash monkey is really designed, one, to be fished on a sinking line. You can see how big it is. You can see all the flash that's in it, but it's really designed to be fished on a sinking line or a sink tip in order to drop it down into the water column. And the ultimate style or way to fish this is, one, as I was explaining a little bit earlier, where you can zigzag it back and forth in the water, but the other is just called a burn. And again, this is a Russ Madden technique where you cast it out, and just like you see the guys in saltwater where they tuck their rod underneath their arm and they're just basically pulling as fast as they can to get that fly back. And again, what happens is the trout, they see it, it's more of a reactionary bite versus, you know, like a dry fly where you're trying to match the hatch. They see this thing hauling down the river, and they just can't stop themselves. They have to destroy it, they have to kill it, and it's just a reactionary bite. So really 3 different styles of flies, and the colors can just be endless, right? So try to, if you get into tying them, try to match the hatch. You know, like the white one here is like for steelhead smolt, if there's steelhead smolt in your water system, or if, you know, white is a favorite flavor on your river, make some white ones. The bellies are all different. The one that I just showed you had like that yellow integrated belly. This one has got, you know, a white underbelly on it. So just mix it up with the forage that you have in your river, and then, you know, make sure that you have just a different colors and variations. So on that one laser legal that I showed you, you can see this one is like a baby brown trout, where it's got the brown and then the yellow, and just use different color combinations that, work for you and imitate the bait fish that are in your waterways. So that's a little look into my flies.
What I want to leave you with is some overhead video of Brian working the fly line, working the rod tip, manipulating the line, trying to make that fly dance, some of his stripping techniques. We showed it on ground level, over the shoulder, and I thought it'd be kind of interesting to see some over the head shots. What he's trying to do is put life into that fly, make it look like something wounded, crippled, something panicking. He wants to get that fly dancing to trigger that predatory response. So these are all just techniques that he does. Well, folks, we're going to close the video out. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it entertaining. Definitely, I hope you found this one informative, and we can add something to your streamer game, and maybe get you interested in go out and trying some streamer fishing. Once again, please hit the subscribe button. We need all the help we can get. Hit the little bell icon. A lot more videos are going to be coming this summer with a lot different subjects. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave us a comment, because that helps us direct where we're going with our videos.